remember in Bangladesh, back when we started manufacturing, we were not very rich. Our purchasing power was really less. However, we adopted the very same model that China used before. We gave lower cost, and that's why investors started pouring in. And now we are one of the developing countries, up and coming developing countries. China built on its model. I know firsthand that if we start increasing the cost, then obviously we are going to lose the very strength that we have. And that is the strength for China. That is what China is facing right now, and the dilemma of China that we are here to solve. I am here with my team, Strategic Consultancy Limited from University of Dhaka, comprising of Sabira Mehri, Pasha Shah, and Mustafa Sian Hussain.
So let's take a look at what's going on currently. So we all know that China is a global manufacturing powerhouse. They are the leaders. But however, they are on the threat of losing that global status. Who are possessing this threat? They are USA, the challenger. How are they challenging? Well, we all know that a new industrial revolution is upcoming. So as USA is pioneering 3D system, they are already adopting, and they are producing an efficient supply chain to poses a threat to China. Now, this disruptive technology is having some impact on the supply chain and manufacturing industry. So, what is the core issue in this case, ladies and gentlemen? The core issue is how 3D printing's impact can help to retain China's market leadership. China wants to retain its market leadership in the new industrial revolution. So the prime focus of our presentation is, first of all, we will be looking at the manufacturer's mindset. Then we will be focusing on the consumer insight, that what the consumer wants. Then we will see the inadequacies of the supply chain management, and finally we will see the impact of 3D printing on the supply chain as well as the manufacturing process. So what is the manufacturing mindset? As we can see from the vector mapping, we can see currently the process is not that efficient. However, the products are very qualitative. What do we want in the future by using 3D printers? We will increase the efficiency. Also, we can see that rise of low volume, high personalized products, which, as you can see from the stats, how these 3D printers can lead to efficiency, as predicted by McKinsey's Deloitte. You can see that rise of low volume, high personalized products with 770 billion by 2025. Quality assurance, quality will increase by 4 times in 5 to 10 years. Production cost will decrease. Annual growth rate of these 3D printers will increase by 4 times, and digitalization of manufacturing will take place. Hereby, China can use all this to move towards 3D printers.
Now, let's have a look at the consumer mindset. Well, if you want to use these 3D printers, well, we should know who actually the consumers are. So basically, we have created this consumer insight. So what do this consumer wants? Well, all we want is that a product which is customized. Well, currently this is the trend. All they want is customized products. After that, well, this is a process where on-spot selling is possible, because through our wants, they can easily make and replicate the product that we really want. So they can easily replicate what we are doing through 3D printing. Simultaneously, well, this service that they are going to provide, that is really fast. That's what we want, because in this busy lifestyle, all we want is efficient and time management. Well, that is why e-commerce is established. So through 3D printing, what we order, they will simply get, and that we can simply see the way that they are doing it. After that, the rapidity. Well, as I have previously stated that, well, they can have this product easily available and clearly. Well, what if we don't like the product? We can simply complain, and they can make that change as quickly and as rapidly as we want. So after that, however, there is this huge changing preference. Something which I wanted few days back, I won't prefer that today. And same goes for a month after this. So they can easily adapt through the usage of 3D printing, because the time that is required is pretty less, whereas the current conventional method requires at least 2 to 3 months only to deliver the samples, where we can easily replicate it and we can easily print this product. And after that, this is basically the consumer behavior, where the main gist is all they prefer is value for money, efficiency, and simultaneously all they want is the physical evidence of that product. Because we can simply see what is being made, how it is being made, and the overall transaction, and most importantly, we are getting it within the time.
Now, if we look at the recommendation, we will see that adopting 3D printing system to threat neutralization strategy is what we plan to do. For this strategy to work, we have adopted the triple check model. We will have to give a check on acceptability, suitability, and feasibility. Because without acceptability, feasibility, and suitability, a strategy will obviously not be able to neutralize the threat that is being posed. If we move on to the first recommendation,
so basically this is the comparison which we made of the traditional supply chain method and the one which will be improved by the 3D printing method. Well, through the traditional one, well, you have a product. You say that I want to see the sample. They will first of all contact the USA people, and then this product will be transferred to the warehouse and then to the USA, who will provide their feedback and finally send a recommendation about their product, which will be like this whole product will be transferred from China to USA and then back to China, and this chain will increase if the products are being rejected. So, and overall this time taken is almost 2 to 3 months, whereas in case of 3D printing, well, you have a product, you like this, you just simply order that, and well, the manufacturers will try to develop the product as you wish, and then through that product they will simply print it, and then you can usually and easily available through this. Through this, the advantage is that they will get that the lead time, that the time taken for the order and the product to be placed for the manufacturers will decrease significantly. And as a result of that, there will be a huge lower transport cost, and for this there will be no warehouses required. Simultaneously, the products that they will, you can easily customize it, because if you have a complaint, I can easily take those complaints into account and make changes based on that. Simultaneously, as the transport cost will be lower, well, there will be an case where of sustainability, because there will be a lower carbon footprint, because basically as there will be a lower air pollution, and most importantly, the final product, well, it actually simplifies the whole production process. Now moving on.
if we look at the first check, which is the check for acceptability, we want to see how the current advantages of 3D printing can actually be also advantageous for the manufacturers of China as well. Of course, for producers or our clients to accept a certain strategy, they have to check for first immediate prototyping. Like my teammate has already said, when you want to take up a product into production, what happens is a huge supply chain where you have to send it for molding, and then which is nearly 5,000 to 8,000 miles away, and then after it is done it has to come back. So you get a total of 10,000 to 16,000 distance that is the product traveling. This time limits immediate prototyping, because if we do not like the prototype, we have to send it back and then it has to come back again, which, as you can see from what I have said, very time consuming and very lengthy. However, the use of 3D printing will give the clients the availability of immediate prototyping, through which their designers or they themselves can present a product that is in front of their eye, and if they are defective, they can immediately spot the differences and then immediately make the product as well. Thus, for China, it is going to be very helpful, because it is going through the imitative innovation strategy, where what it does, it imitates a product's good things and then incorporates some of its own special effects as well. However, if that effect is not good, it will. If we follow the traditional method, the time will be very high. However, through immediate prototyping, this process can be made even faster. Decentralized manufacturing, because of this, you don't have one single person sending out orders everywhere who's making all the decisions. The designers, the producers, they can make their independent prototypes and present it, which will of course increase efficiency in both the supply chain and the manufacturing cost and time. It will also reduce, like I said, cost. Now, first of all, customization. Who does not want a product which is exactly suited to your needs? Everyone, of course. And that is where we are going to have our competitive advantage for our clients. What do our clients want? They want the lion's share of the market. They want to be the market leaders if they are not already one. So for that, the current trend, which is the rapidly changing mindset of the customers, it is very necessary that the clients produce the products in adequate amount and only the products which have the maximum demand and which are in trend. For that, you have to go through customization because the clients will be needing that. Now, the complex final product is a competitive advantage because even though we cannot make the complex final products using the 3D printers because it is very time consuming, we can make the raw materials. For example, we can make a particular part of a bigger machinery using the 3D printing methods, which is going to be very helpful for China because due to the increasing cost of the renminbi, it can become very expensive for its products to be exported. Hence, this can actually enhance the efficiency of production and lower the cost. Then flexibility. The customization and the immediate prototyping all together makes the whole production process incredibly flexible. And everyone wants flexibility in production because clients need that in this fast moving world. If there is a change in demand, where the client should not be producing that product which has already lost its demand 2 days ago. It needs to stop producing that and it needs to produce something which is in trend right now. That is why through 3D printing we can actually improve the manufacturing process by increasing the flexibility of production.
Now let's have a look at the suitability, where we will be taking into consideration the other side of the coin, and that is the disadvantages. Well, as you can simply see that in the case it is clearly written that the 3D printers, they has a high maintenance cost, and this might incur a huge cost for the manufacturers. But what we are going to see is we have to look in the bigger picture. Well, through this, we are catering the needs of our customers, and simultaneously we are reducing the supply chain cost. Now, well, instead of waiting for 2 to 3 months, we can immediately have our response and get our products to be delivered, which increases the inventory supply chain days. Because now, previously it was 4, because 4 to 6 months per year, because previously it takes 2 to 3 months. Now they can easily do it within few weeks, so they can easily resell and produce their products more efficiently and a further greater time over the years. After that, well, one of the major issues that has been faced while adopting this technology is the lack of skill that they require to use this 3D printing and to get acquainted to this method. Well, for that, we will be using, as it is clearly written in the case, that the Chinese government is really excited about this sector, and they are actually already, they have invested in the R&D sector. So we also believe in this fact that they will also be setting up the training sectors which will improvise and ensure that people has the adequate skills necessary to implement this 3D printing sectors. Now, well, there is this lack of scalability in the sense that majority, as previously stated, that USA has been the pioneer in this 3D printing system, and they have developed major designs which they have patented for the last 20 to 30 years, which Chinese people can't use without, and if they use them, they have to pay a huge amount of money. However, the good news is that by 2014, almost all of these designs, the patent of those designs will be abolished and they won't be applicable. So they can easily replicate all of those designs, and that too at a significantly lower cost, almost decreases from $14,000 to $300. After that, well, the disadvantage is that, well, they can't be catered to all of the sectors that the Chinese industry can produce. Well, they can be used for specifically some specific parts as well as for specific industries. But we are specializing, and thus they will be making some of the niche markets more specialized. And on the other hand, well, there is this complaint that at times the speed of which the printing is taken into consideration, well, it is pretty low. But there is this new invention, which is the inkjet bioprinting method. Well, initially it might be expensive, but it increases the speed of the printing further, increasing the efficiency to a greater level. Moving on.
Now for our last check, which is the check for feasibility. Well, the limitation is the product size, which we said can be turned into an advantage for us by producing them only for raw materials, which is why building them together in the smaller sense will help generate the bigger picture or the bigger product. Next is the material availability problem. However, we do not see this as that big of a threat because China is known for its imitative innovation technology, so it can have plenty of sources for each to imitate the materials and then produce it for its own. Quality, well, we can say in manufacturing sector, China is the market leader and USA is the market challenger. However, USA has that one tool that can prove it to be one of the biggest threats for China, which is the 3D printer, on which it has the market pioneer advantage. What we want is for our clients to know that already many Chinese have undertaken production which has reduced the cost of these inkjet printers by almost 40% when compared to the larger producers. So which is why we want them to adapt to the market of inkjet printers and produce it for their own so as to enhance the quality. Moving on.
So let's take a look at the action plan. So we have talked about the recommendation, how we are going to go for the triple check system, so that we can actually ensure that how China are going to utilize whatever 3D printing is going to offer them. But how we are going to actually implement it in China, because the manufacturers out there are very much used to with the traditional supply chain management, and they're actually working with this system for many years. So what we have to be focusing on is basically the manufacturer's mindset, so that they are accepting this 3D printing, since the digitalization of the manufacturing system is coming up in this era. So for that, we have came up with this action plan where we will start with sharing success stories. We will be actually portraying how 3D printing is actually helping the USA market and how China can actually take help from those success stories. For example, in the case we have read about Ford. Moving on, in a personal pitching to market leaders. Well, yes, if we start pitching to the market leaders, the other companies and the industries would be following them as well. Because since the market leader would be applying the 3D printing in their system, and they will be projecting how it is actually helping in their supply chain management as well as manufacturing process, it will be actually encouraging the other people and the other companies to actually see that yes, it is going to be an advantage in their case as well. And last of all, we are going to actually show that how the consumer enthusiasm is actually working out here, since we can see that bespoke is the most important buzzword in not just automotive industry but also in other industries as well, for manufacturing most importantly. So for this, if we are actually going for the customization right there, and if their product needs are met in time with the reduced lead time, it will actually give them the customer satisfaction, and we can actually deliver this enthusiasm to the market leaders as well as the people who are actually indifferent regarding this 3D printing in China. So we are going to actually show that how it is actually going to be very beneficial for the Chinese market. Moving on. So last of all, we are going to actually talk about the impact, overall impact of this recommendation. Basically, we are actually imposing that 3D printing is going to be very beneficial for the Chinese market. Why so? Because it is going to actually reduce the manufacturing cost. As we have seen in the traditional supply chain management, it is actually, there are a lot of costs, not just regarding the warehouse or the inventory or the manufacturing, as well as there are other costs included in this case. But if 3D printing is out there, it is going to actually reduce the cost, as well as inventory cost and reducing the lead time, since you don't need to actually go for a longer distance, or you don't need to take a longer time in this case. 3D printing is going to be very efficient and effective. And in this case, consumer need satisfaction is going to be increased and the supply chain conflict would be reduced. As overall, China should adopt this new revelation for increasing the success stories in their industry. Thank you very much. That was Stratagem Consultancy. Now the floor is open for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Well, my first question is, did you identify any disadvantages of 3D printing for a Chinese manufacturer?
Yes, sir. We have identified the disadvantages, and we have also tried to show how those disadvantages can actually be used as advantages in our suitability.
Where we have used these disadvantages and we have converted in a way where they will be advantageous for the Chinese manufacturers.
Manufacturers. We can actually convert these advantages to
Just
disadvantages.
one disadvantage, please.
One disadvantage is that it can produce products, but in low volumes. And we turned it into an advantage is that they can use it in niche markets. That's how we.
The another disadvantage is like some of them complain that the speed that which it is printed, it's pretty low. So for that we have suggested the new technology of in this sector, which is the inkjet bioprinting system, which will reduces the speed with which 3D printing is.
Also, these disadvantages are in the short run. However, what we're trying to show that we can convert these disadvantages into the advantages into the long run actually, like the one suggested that the inkjet printing, that's a long-term solution. So that in the future we retain our position.
Now I'm thinking about the supply chain, the two ends. One side is consumer, the other side is supplier, but in the middle is a supply chain. Don't you think this 3D methodology will drive people away from business in the middle?
Thank you, Imran, for the question actually. In this case, we are not actually driving out the people out here, we are actually reducing the time out here. Because in case of the unemployment problem, what we are actually seeing is that while 3D printing is actually being implemented in China, there are people who lack the expertise skills. So in this case, if there is any sort of problem in case of unemployment or the people are driving away, we can actually utilize these people for actually training them and utilizing them for being an expert for using this 3D printing. Because if 3D printing is being used, it is not just going to cut down the manufacturing cost, as well it is going to actually reduce the time, which is actually a big problem for manufacturing industry who are actually maintaining this supply chain management. And since China is seeing that how the other industries are going in a very advantageous position, they need to actually gain competitive advantage in this case, because day by day it is going to be digitalization out there. So they have to actually stick to this new change, so that disruptive technology is not going to take over them, rather they will just adapt it and help the whole industry.
If I can take just further to that question. The supply chain would make more sense to manufacture closer to the consumer.
Yes.
If US are the major consumers of goods that Chinese manufacture, why wouldn't I put the 3D printer in the US?
The USA provides China with the design it is to make. Now, we want 3D printer in the Chinese industries because we want no room for mistakes. We can make the prototypes immediately and we can check for flaws right over there. What happens is that they send us a product, then China makes a prototype and then sends it back to them. Instead of that, they can just give the orders, we can make the prototype and then show it to them. Immediately the flaws can be identified, and then in a matter of a few hours or days, as long as in a matter of few hours compared to the months, it can be made again, and the decision process made much easier.
Yes, agree in the prototyping and the design, but manufacture for sale.
Alright, manufacture for sale. Well, yes, it is very much necessary for it to be produced near its customers. However, it is also very much necessary that the time taken from the raw materials coming from its place to the manufacturers be reduced as well. Which is why we want the 3D printers to be near the manufacturers, so that time is reduced. And we can, and as we said, it's rapidly changing market. Before the demand shifts, we want the product to be released in the market as soon as possible, and that can be done if the distance between the manufacturer and the supplier is reduced. That is what we want to do.
And even that is possible in terms of customer as well. In this case, for example, if we take example of RMG sector of our country, what happens is that for the manufacturer of the ready-made garments, here the supplier, the main factor is the buyer, who is going to actually give you the orders. They want the products in time, and the lead time here is a big deal. So in this case, if 3D printers are used, it's just a metaphor, we can say that. So if that is the case, what can happen is that they can actually constantly see that what sort of customization they are looking for, what sort of designs they are looking for, what sort of product designs or production process they are looking for. So in this case, the demand gap would be filled if 3D printing is being used here. So China can get this advantage over the customers as well, not just the suppliers. So
Sorry if I may add to that, like you guys have heard about the Rana Plaza incident, where many people have lost their lives because they were not being able to fulfill their orders on time. And one of the major reasons being considered was the fact that the time taken for the samples to be approved. And that's why they were like they had a really less amount of time to fulfill the order. So 3D printing is a really necessity in the sense that, well, so that at least the sampling time at least could be solved. Because in our country, well, in China it takes 2 to 3 months, and in our country it's even longer. It's almost like 4 to 5 months. So in that case, and once if it's get rejected, it's another 4 to 5 months. So it
the
increases the
more important
pressure.
part is that the method they are using at this moment is the imitative innovation. So this is going to be very suitable for this country because they're constantly imitating the best parts of the products out there. So 3D printing would help to adapt this system, so how they can actually imitate it quickly in this case.
So you're 3D, you're suggesting 3D production because of the customization and the low volume. How about your end customers want a high volume? What would you do then?
In this case, what can happen is that we have seen that the government is actually funding so that there are more centers which will be actually working for 3D centers. So in the long term, we would actually suggest that they go for more production or more implementation of this 3D printers so that they can go for higher volumes as well. If you can see that there are more printers and more expertise in this case, they can actually be able to deliver the
Do you
high.
still an advantage of using 3D for higher volume, or is it more?
Well, like we said, it's a limitation that is already there.
Mm.
So what we want when our customers want it in large amounts, instead of going for the end product, we would make the smaller products because that takes a lower printing time. So if that is lower, then we can mass produce the products also much easier instead of going straight for the entire product. So that was a limitation which we wanted a possible solution for that.
A test of imagination, I suddenly think of Alibaba. Mr. Mao. Now, if you use his concept, how can you apply the 3D technology?
Well, what we can say is that it reduces inventory, and and what we want is, as it reduces inventory and manufacturing waste as well, that is going to be very helpful. Because like if we check Uber is one of the largest taxi services, but they have no taxis of their own. Airbnb, they don't have any rooms of their own. That's why they're so much efficient, because they don't have wasted inventory. What we are doing here is we are reducing wasted inventory, which is why we can send it out as much as possible, and 3D printing is actually what is the current demand, and it can become up and coming as well.
And in terms of Alibaba and Walmart, in this case, what can happen is, since it's an e-commerce site, so whenever a customer is actually looking for something customized or something for their own personal interest, we can actually deliver it through 3D printing, because we can actually connect whatever they are wanting, we can imitate it and try to innovate. In this
3D
case.
could be one element in the electronic commerce supply
Yeah.
chain.
Yes,
Yes.
we believe so.
No more questions from me.
Thank you
very
so
much.
much.
Thank you so